Hello, everybody. My name is Vikram. I'm one of the co-founders of Superform. And today I'll be talking about how DeFi UX has changed over the years, a little bit of reflection on how far we've come and how much there is still to go. Yeah. All right, this has been one of my favorite charts to look at recently because it puts everything in perspective on exactly where we are. It's kind of crazy that DeFi's only been around for a little over 4 years now. We started off DeFi summer, went through the entire cycle, up until now where I think DeFi is in the best position it's ever been in, mostly because of the fact that we've had so much stuff be built by infra people in this room to make applications finally on par with what we actually expect from any consumer interaction. And I actually think DeFi might be the only industry where we're actually coming out of this phase of disillusionment, and we're actually excited about some of the applications that are being built that people are actually using. And a lot of stuff that's caught fire over the last year that, like it or not, a lot of the trading applications, stuff like meme coins, it's all been an application of DeFi. And I think we've finally reached the point where we finally have good stuff that's being built on top of it that people care about. Okay, so I'll just as part of that reflection, we'll go back in time a little bit to those of you around 4 years ago now on how DeFi UX used to look. And on the left is Yam Finance, and we have Based Money on the other side, which was, I like to call it like intentionally poor UX, where the better the UX of a project, the more TVL it would attract and the less yields you'd end up making. So if you actually were ever in a pool, if you're in a pool one, chances are that you're in a race to extract tokens out of the pool. And if they made it easier to access, that means it's actually you'd end up making less money. So there's actually like an inverse relationship with how good of a product it was versus how much people were actually making from it. But we graduated from that. And this was kind of how the DeFi experience looked like in 2021 and 2022, where we had DeFi Llama emerge because there had to have been a way to track all of those different yields. And I used DeFi Llama as a search and discovery platform. And then hypothetically, let's say I have 3 protocols. I have Aave, Compound, and Yearn, which I've shortlisted. They have good TVL. I've heard of them before. I would then go from DeFi Llama into the protocol page like Yearn, and then I would try to deposit, but most of the time I wouldn't even have the token that Yearn wanted. I wouldn't have USDC. I'd have to swap it somewhere. So then I would go to 1inch or 0x. Now we have plenty more of those mechanisms, but I'd get that token, and then I'd go back to the protocol page, and then I'd deposit. But then most of the time, if I was depositing across multiple protocols, I'd have to track my position on multiple different sites. So then Zapper and Zerion came up, and then that kind of became the all-in-one DeFi experience a couple years ago. End to end, that was up to 20 clicks, and I was on multiple websites, and the amount of time I was spending doing due diligence was prohibitive to anyone who actually didn't do this full time. And then something big happened in 2022. We had Rollups emerge. We also had Terra, and lots of other stuff that took TVL away from just Ethereum, and that made it even harder to manage all those positions. So in response to that, there's kind of the emergence of the, call it embedded multi-chain app. Just highlighted some instances of that here, but you have stuff like Jumper, you have from Li-Fi and Bungee by Socket. Lots of other bridging solutions that are embedded also in this, but that kind of was the solution to how to make that multi-chain UX slightly better. But it still wasn't enough. And whenever we set out to build Superform, our goal was to just have it so that the user would go directly to Superform, and all the interoperability would just kind of sit underneath the hood. And you'd still be able to access and all that yield without actually bridging, and you'd be able to discover things just the same. So I have a quick demo of how Superform V1 actually looks like to do that process. If I press play, will it play? OK, nice. So I have search and discovery on this main page where we have highlighted vaults that you can actually access that you don't have to do as much research for. But let's say I'm looking for a general page of all USDC yield. I can browse, I can compare APYs here. It looks like there's a vault that's earning 32% from exactly, some other stuff that's earning 13, 14%. If I want to deposit into this, I can deposit any asset from any chain into it in one transaction. And we're generating routes from Li-Fi and Socket. And we support permit signatures, so technically, you actually wouldn't be broadcasting any of this on chain. That's been a nice improvement in UX over the last few years. And then, yeah, we make that deposit. And this is on MetaMask, so if it'll look even better on another wallet. Yeah, and then that deposit goes through, and then you could track it. We have our own cross-chain explorer in here, and yeah. So looks like this transaction went from USDC on Base into that opportunity on Optimism. Oops. And it went through a cross, confirmed practically automatically because cross is great, and it also sends messages on Layer 0, Hyperlane, and Axelar to confirm. Now you can also see your positions all in one place. It's any position that you got on Superform, you'll be able to see here. And you can withdraw any of those assets, any of those vault positions into any asset, again, constructed in a very similar way to how deposits are on top of A and Bs and liquidity bridges. And yeah, that's it. So in this situation, you actually don't even own funds on Base. You have those funds on Arbitrum, but you can still manage your position through that interoperability. And yeah, that was what we did in our V1. And through this process, I think there's still a conception that UX is kind of a optional thing for apps if they care about their users, but actually I think it goes a lot more than that. And I think it's the reason why even as a farmer, I kind of get cognitively overloaded, and I'm actually okay with earning less money if it just means less clicks for me. And that opportunity, and what you just saw, that vault was earning 30%. If I just went to DeFi Llama and I was looking for stuff, I'd probably find something that was way lower because it's just what's shown to me first. So save money on and spend more time actually doing stuff that matters, doing research. And then UX also helps you see everything in one place and make the entire process of managing money way easier. But there are still lots of problems in what I just showed you on how that V1 functions to make it easier. Users still feel like they're using a crypto app. They have to sign in and connect with wallet. They have to have funds ready on chain. Importantly, exactly USDC, I have no idea what exactly is. I could do some research on it, but still requires some level of understanding of what that opportunity is and what it's doing. And then the two technical problems in here is that cross-chain messaging is not cheap, and it does take a little bit of time. So I mentioned Superform V1 is built on Layer 0, Hyperlane, Axelar. Cross-chain deposits will be sometimes up to $1, depending on messaging fees. And it's not instantaneous, which creates some sort of lag, and the user is a little bit confused sometimes in what's going on. And then liquidity bridges that aren't solvers don't handle failures very well, and users could end up with funds randomly on the destination chain, but notably solved by a lot of the new models. And the last bit is the actual management of stuff after, which is the fact that users have to come back and monitor and make sure that this pool is still around, it's still earning what it said it was going to do, and adds a lot of operational complexity after the fact. So in response to this, we've been building our V2 for the last year, and I'm excited to show you guys a sneak peek of how that looks like on mobile. So every user that comes to Superform, they're set up with a smart account on initiation. You can log in with Face ID, any sort of social. View your portfolio, which is all linked to your 7579 smart account wallet. And then we're focusing on the idea that all of your assets on chain should always be earning. So if you have assets that aren't in a pool, whether it's stablecoins, ETH, BTC, whatever, find a way to make that do something on chain, earn 5%, 10%, whatever it might be. We have Super USD, which is our own vault product, which is a stablecoin earned product, which we'll be launching soon. But you could also access existing yield opportunities from Morpho, Aave, Gauntlet, whatever it might be on there. And yeah, this was a live demo, as you just saw. And you can choose your funding token from any chain, multiple chains. It's all batched. So in this case, that vault product exists on Ethereum, but I can use funds from both Base and Optimism. And I can also fund it directly from bank account or Robinhood, Coinbase, whatever. And yeah, there's that deposit. Goes through. It shows up in my portfolio. I can also swap tokens directly in app, and that would go any token, any token. And then we're also going to have a card. So you can spend directly from your yield position, from either the yield it's generated or the actual position itself. And yeah, we ate a lot of McDonald's this last week. And yeah, that's the demo. But excited generally for the ability for DeFi apps to kind of go consumer through a lot of the new info that's been developed. Smart accounts are a big one. Embedded wallets is another big one. And the interoperability just maturing makes it possible for people to actually build consumer apps. And I think it's been a slog, I think, for a lot of infra teams over the last few years, but excited that we can finally build apps that actually infra teams are proud of too. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys. Take any questions.